Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to have a quick chat with you all about a new development in the war in Ukraine. Recently, the Russian defense minister has been going around to various European countries and to NATO, claiming that he has intelligence that the Ukrainians are going to detonate a dirty bomb, which is just a regular bomb that's been surrounded by radioactive material. Now, I actually did a decent portion of my undergrad studying nuclear engineering, so I've gotten a lot of calls and texts from friends and family saying, hey, what's this dirty bomb thing? Is this a big threat? Kind of what's going on with this story. And the short answer up front, the bomb itself, not very dangerous. However, the fact that the Russians are trying to push this information out there, that could indicate some threats on the horizon. So, let's really quickly discuss why dirty bombs aren't really that dangerous in and of themselves, and then we'll get into why the Russians might be doing this and what that might lead to in the future. So, with that out of the way, let's get back to the bomb. As I said in the intro, a dirty bomb is simply a conventional explosive that has been surrounded by some kind of radioactive material. The idea being that when the conventional explosives go off, it will disperse the radioactive material and create a sort of pseudo-fallout. However, there are two main issues that make this kind of a weapon really ineffective. The first is that you actually have to procure the necessary amount of dangerous radioactive material. Generally, the isotopes you want are the direct response to a fission reaction in either uranium or plutonium at their weapons grade level. And the only place you're getting that is by actually detonating a nuclear weapon. So you wouldn't use a dirty bomb because to build the dirty bomb, we got to set off a nuclear bomb. Why not just use the nuke itself? But you could technically also source this from reactor waste. However, the quantities of these isotopes that you would be getting from reactor waste is a lot smaller than the stuff you'd be getting from a bomb, as you're generally just dealing with a much lower concentration of uranium or plutonium in reactor fuel than you would have in a nuclear weapon. So, since you're getting lower yields, that means you gotta extract it, you gotta refine it, you gotta concentrate it, which is dangerous for the bomb maker. And then you have to move the bomb relatively quickly so that this stuff does not decay too much to the point where it's ineffective. Then, if you somehow manage to procure this stuff and keep it somewhat stable long enough to get the bomb in place, now you have the second issue. You need a large enough bomb to actually disperse this material to the point where you're actually creating a real impact on the battlefield. So we're probably talking about something with Moab-style capabilities, mother of all bombs. It's got a blast radius of about a mile, and it's one of the largest conventional explosives in the world. Since you're really trying to disperse the material, that's what you want. The problem is, by the time you reach a bomb of that scale, the nuclear material doesn't really matter anymore. Most experts agree that at that point, the biggest threat of the dirty bomb is the bomb itself. And the only place you're going to really experience any severe radiological impacts is near the epicenter of the blast, where you're also going to be experiencing the shockwave, the fireball, any shrapnel that might come from the bomb or from other elements in the surroundings that have been destroyed. So probably the radiation is the least of your worries if you happen to be at that point. And after that, the material is far too dispersed for it to really have a negative impact on the health of people. So, now that we've established that dirty bombs are no more dangerous than just conventional explosives, and given the fact that the Ukrainians are not nearly in a desperate enough position that they might try and resort to such an ineffective weapon, the question remains, why are the Russians going around saying that the Ukrainians are going to detonate a dirty bomb? Well, the short answer is that I think that the Russians are laying the foundation for a future misinformation campaign and false flag operation where the Russians detonate a dirty bomb and then attempt to blame it on the Ukrainians. The Russians don't really care whether or not the bomb is actually effective. The only thing they're looking for is for someone to be able to go in with a Geiger counter and say, yes, I can detect some level of radiation, therefore we know that there was a nuclear component to this weapon. This would allow Russia to open up a few more avenues of response, the most dangerous of which would obviously be the Ukrainians used a nuclear weapon, so we're going to respond with an actual nuclear weapon. However, I don't think this is very likely, as so many different nuclear powers have stepped forward and said Russia using a nuclear weapon in Ukraine is a huge red line, and the consequences would be catastrophic. So, I don't think that Russia is ready to risk mutually assured destruction to actually go about using a nuclear weapon in Ukraine. The more likely goal of this misinformation campaign is to erode global support for Ukraine. Right now, the Ukrainians are receiving a ton of military aid from the US and other NATO countries. However, if citizens of those countries believe that the Ukrainians have broken the nuclear taboo by using a dirty bomb, they may be less willing to continue to support Ukraine and call on their governments to rescind any future military aid. This would give the Russians a chance to regroup, rearm, and figure out how they're going to achieve at least some of their military objectives. However, in order for any of this to work, the Russians need to be pretty sure that people are going to believe them when they blame this dirty bomb on the Ukrainians. People aren't willing to believe that the Ukrainians actually did it. This bombing is just going to get pinned on the Russians, and their position in the international order is just going to get even worse. So, that's why the Russian defense minister is out here meeting with his foreign counterparts and saying, hey, here is my intel that says that the Ukrainians are going to detonate this dirty bomb. Are you buying this? And the answer has been resoundingly, no, we're not buying it. Get out. So, the Russians right now don't seem to be seeing a lot of success at the national governmental level with their misinformation, and it remains to be seen if any of the civilian population in any of these countries will buy it. I think not. Russians just aren't very credible when it comes to this, especially when they're saying that the people who are winning are about to use a loser's tactics. So, given the fact that there is no good reason to use a dirty bomb over a conventional bomb, and the fact that the Ukrainians are nowhere near desperate enough to use such an ineffective weapon, I think this Russian misinformation campaign isn't going to go too much farther than it already has. It's really starting to show how desperate the Russians are to find some way of decreasing support for Ukraine, and just try and buy themselves a little bit of breathing room so that they can accomplish something. However, that being said, desperation does often lead to poor decision-making, and we have seen a lot of poor decision-making throughout this entire conflict from the Russian side. So, I'm not going to rule out the possibility of them going forward and actually trying to do this false flag dirty bomb detonation, but I think that the risks are really high for Russia and that it could really cost them in the long term. But, who can say? So, in the meantime, remember to duck and cover, and think about it. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my content, subscribe to the channel and make sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post new videos. If you want to support me on my other social media platforms, all of the links you need will be in the video description below. If you have any questions about this video or another topic that you'd like me to discuss, leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.